Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to everyone that's joining us today on this very extremely hot day in Gauteng today in South Africa. So thank you everybody for joining on the Open Mic Foundation. It is great to have everyone today on, and I hope everyone's doing well and everyone's safe, and everyone is celebrating the new president and the vice president and all the hype that's going on in the US. So to all our US supporters on the Open Mic Foundation, I wish you well, and I hope this is a start of a new change that's been born in the US, and hopefully it ripples into South Africa. So we have today's speaker, and I want to welcome this incredible, phenomenal woman that I recently met. And she just takes my breath away because she's like a breath of fresh air. And this is Tonie. I'm going to let Tonie introduce herself to her. You see this beautiful hair. She just made me just stun that hair of her. So yeah. So Tonie, yeah, introduce yourself to everyone and why that topic?
Hi, everybody. My name is Tonie Samkange, and I'm so excited to be here and chatting with you guys. Thank you for having me. My topic is living in an era of enlightened consumerism. Now, why that topic? Have you ever looked at your bank balance and said to yourself, no, man, I need to spend money differently? And wait a minute, lockdown saved me money. But no, my child eats all my money. And I think I need to look at getting a new car. So it was life, really. Life led me to this topic, and here we are.
Fantastic. I can tell you, and I can be very honest, Tonie, I did save money, but I didn't see the money in the bank account. So, I traveled to Sandton to work, and it cost me quite a bit to and back. And I looked at the account and looked at the bank balance. I was like, okay, it's not there anymore, right? So I can totally relate to what you just mentioned right now. So I'm gonna leave it over to you. And yeah, let's share and I'm intrigued by the story and how we look at, some of the things from a consumer perspective and what enlightens us. So yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Thanks again. So, guys, picture me tiny, 17, 18 years old, just finished work in the middle of Oxford, England. And I really wanted my own personal cell phone, been sharing one with my family. And I finally was working and had earned and saved enough to make some money. And at this point, I was getting cash. I did get a check that I was able to go in cash. I think it was about £50 a week or so that I was making, which for me was a lot of money. I mean, I had no real bills. My mom was like, okay, you're allowed to work, so work. And that's about it. And she was not going to give me a phone that I wanted anyway, because she's my mother. Everything in life you must work for. So, yeah.
That's mom. That's mom. I can relate to it. I say the same thing to my kids, so I can relate to your mom, no problem.
So I remember standing in front of the shop and looking at this phone because I'd been eyeing it. I said to myself, if I just do 4 more shifts, 4 more weeks, I can get this money and I can get my phone and I'll get home and be like, Mom, I got a phone. My world will be complete. And I remember thinking, okay, I've just checked this £50 and I'm going to go buy my phone. I've got the rest of my money on me. And the sales consultant is bringing the phone to me. They're very excited because I've been talking for like a month or so with this guy. And I'm like, yes, I've got the money now. He was there to get his results. Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, do I really want this phone? Now, which was a first for me because everything I work for that I want, I get. That's who I am. I'm goal orientated. Yeah. But I'm 17, 18, having to ask myself, do I want it? Is it necessary? Could I do something else with this money? Besides, I'm going to varsity in a couple of months. I could use this money at varsity. But I really want my own phone. So he came in, this beautiful box, and this phone that looked so attractive for the longest time suddenly was not appealing anymore. I didn't understand this emotion that was surging over me. And I was so hurt. And I'm like, that's my mom's fault. I could hear her voice saying, there's a lot of money to spend on a phone. Besides, a new device comes out anyway soon. And people always want the latest thing, but that was the latest phone at that time that I wanted. And I was like, I really want this, the Motorola flip phone. It was the right shade of pink.
I remember
It was everything.
Yeah.
I didn't get this phone. I went home and I kept quiet about it because I'm about to tell my mom that I just was an adult about life.
Yeah.
And then just before I came to varsity, I said to her, no, I'll need a phone to talk to you now since I'm going to be in South Africa for varsity. You're going to be all the way here in Oxford. We need to chat properly. So I need a phone. And she was excited to take me phone shopping. And I said to her, which one is cheap?
Oh, wow.
And I could see her face. And we found a really cheap phone. And I got a really cheap phone, guys, because I realized all I wanted to do was to call my mom and send her messages. That's it. If the phone happened to have color pictures, that was enough. And remember now at 18, 17, 18, all I wanted to do was to be liked by other kids. All the other kids had nice phones at school. So I knew having this phone would make me a celebrity. I would be in the in crowd. I would be everything. People would want to come see me to use my phone, not the other way around. And I didn't do it because it made no financial sense to me. I had to ask myself, what has Motorola really done for me that I must give them this amount of money? I've worked really hard and those shifts are painful. My feet were killing me. I didn't get that phone, guys. And that was the beginning of my awareness of something called consumerism. The notion that people put things out there for me to bring an impulse purchase or just buy so they benefit. But I'm left with this feeling afterwards going, but exactly like you said, where did my money go? Was it worth it? And I sat there for the first time saying to myself, from now on, no matter what I buy, I need to know what this brand has done for me and if it's benefited me. The plus side is I think I left the UK with about £1,000, arguably about £1,000, because I didn't buy anything. I was like, nope, is it necessary? Do I have to? Because no one is really talking to me like that at this point in my life. No one but my mother anyway. So there was no point in it. And I arrived in South Africa varsity and continued to ask myself the same question, because first years have all these beautiful clothes. They've got all these lovely clothes. They're going shopping. I'm seeing my age mates come back with legit shopping bags, Mr. Price shopping bags. And I'm like, I want to be like them. I want to go shopping too. But of course, mom's not going to give me that money, so I have to work. So I'm now consumed in this having to work notion. And again, going to shops to look to see what's exciting, going to shopping with my friends, and I'm seeing them swiping. But every week they're swiping. They seem to have this hole that can't be filled. And they've got all these clothes sitting in their tiny little wardrobe at varsity. I mean, the wardrobes at university aren't that big, but they just keep going every week. And here I am with my one suitcase of clothing that I flew all the way across the oceans with. And I'm okay with it. To the point of just before I'd made enough money for my first really big varsity shopping spree, a friend at varsity says to me, you always dress so nicely. I need to come shop in your wardrobe. And I said to her, girl, let's go to my room right now. Open my wardrobe and it was barely filled with clothes. And she says, no, I'm sure some of your clothes are dirty. And I said, no, that's not it. This is what I crossed the ocean with. And my mother said to me, I don't need more than this. She could not believe it. So I could literally see the light die in her eyes. Like she thought she was meeting her fashion idol. It's so bad. Even who I still call my day one, my roomza, shout out to her. When I was at varsity, she said she saw me. I think I had blonde hair all the time at that point. Yeah. She said, I was so sure I have met someone who will teach me about fashion, makeup, all these lovely, beautiful things. That was not the case. And literally, again, it reminded me, that's what shops are like for us. You expect so much when you walk in there, all these bright lights, but you keep spending so much in your life and you're left with this empty feeling of my needs aren't being met. And then the notion of enlightenment now is very important. I want us to focus on it. Enlightenment is not about going and finding a new way of living or being the best version of yourself. Enlightenment is, what are you aware of? It's what happens in your head right here.
Consciousness, right?
Your consciousness, exactly.
Yeah.
The reason why you're going to whatever mall you're going to, or even if it's online, the reason you do every e-commerce transaction. I ask myself key questions. Is it necessary? Often it is. Do I really need it? Or is it because it's really cool? And lastly, the key question is always, can you afford? Now, affordability depends on who you are, what brands you like, and all of that. But that affordability question is not about, do I have enough money in my bank account? In terms of my long-term personal goal, as an individual, as a consumer, can I afford it? Now, my personal long-term goal as a consumer is to make sure every single purchase that I make comes back to me.
That's a very interesting concept. So let's talk a little bit more about that. What do you mean that it comes back to you? How so?
So let's go back and just look in terms of our shopping behaviors and our ad spend. Arguably, research says in South Africa here, people spend about 31,900 Rand per second in a mall.
Wow.
That's someone's salary.
Wow. I didn't even know that. I'm not even a mall person, so wow.
And I've always asked myself, it doesn't matter what time of the year you visit a mall, parking lots are always full. Doesn't matter which mall you go to.
Yep, it's always full.
Based on vehicle numbers, that makes sense to me. So when it comes back to you, so let's say it's you or it's me, and I'm willing to swipe 31,900 Rand once off in a mall. No, I'm not. So if it comes back to me, if I ever have to spend, or in a position to spend 31,900 Rand on whatever item it is it coming back to me? Now, to me, it's important because I'm looking at my personal development, Tonie the individual, my professional development, Tonie the business person, Tonie the freelancer, Tonie the mother, Tonie the sister, Tonie the aunt, Tonie the human being. Is it coming back to me?
Okay.
Most of the time, it isn't. It's a
most of the
selfish
time.
desire.
No, for sure, right? I think to most of us, I think people are not aware consciously of what their needs versus their wants are, right?
Yes.
And we do. I mean, I know in schooling they talk about wants and needs.
Yes.
The thing is that teaching kids from an earlier age and to actually set that type of tone of that type of teaching would help our youth for today, because they're not, if I take the youth of today, right, and I'm saying this from my personal opinion and my personal assessment of them. I mean, I have a 21-year-old and I have an 11-year-old, right? And I see their friends and I see, the type of material base they are, right? And I kind of look at that from that perspective. And that's where I'm coming from, okay? And if I see the youth of today, having something of possession of material value is much more valuable to happiness or joy or love or respect or believing in themselves and experiences versus material. Now, I'm a person, a fond believer of I rather have experiences in my life versus material.
Yes.
And it's a very, very big distinction for me. And I choose that because the experiences for me makes me happier and makes me a better person, versus being material where you have things that you feel and see and touch that doesn't add to what you said, gives me seshni value.
Yes.
Doesn't talk to me. And that's quite interesting because we don't see it consciously. People are not aware of what they're actually doing.
And that's the biggest problem. I'll take you back to, let's say 2010 World Cup. Everybody was extremely excited about what was happening in the country. We had a great infrastructure build. We had people coming into South Africa to visit. Everybody wore the Friday Sports T-shirt. Everybody was conscious of who they were as individuals in terms of the national context. But when that ended, were we not doing Football Fridays anymore? Because it did not come back to us as individuals. We get hyped up when it comes to soccer seasons and everything. And it's the exact same reason why we no longer have just 2 shopping seasons when it comes to retail. It's no longer summer or spring and winter.
No.
We've got, we've got pre-spring, spring, mid-spring, high spring, autumn, pre-winter, winter, high winter, autumn sale, and just to knock it off, you have a Christmas sale. Oh, now they've put in Easter and Valentine's sales as well.
I'm gonna confess to you, the things that you just said right now, I haven't even heard of it.
Are you serious?
No, I don't. Wow. I'm not a shopper. I don't go to the shops. If I'm looking for something to shop for, I need a dress. Okay. I need that color dress because it's that event, and that's it. I don't go to the mall to go, and I hate shopping. Yes, I'm a woman and I hate it. Not because of it being, material. It's the fact that it does nothing for me. It's empty. It's meaningless, right? Where some people, go. So the fact that you said it's spring and it's summer light and this, I had no idea. Wow.
So it's all how they come and get us all to keep shopping. And it's the in season, it's on trend, and you have to have it. And it's sitting there under these beautiful, because now everywhere you buy nowadays, they ask you, are you on our database? Want to send you, I've just been unsubscribing from newsletters. I'm enough. I was trying to do some DIY over this lockdown period. As soon as the shops opened, I logged on online. Builders was like, okay, subscribe. I was like, what harm could come of subscribing from Builders Warehouse? Oh, wow. I had to quickly unsubscribe. It's all these things. All I wanted was some DIY stuff and maybe look at how do I make my garden look pretty. But there's a whole lot of stuff that came with it because we're all sitting at home and they're aware of it. And we've got this need we need to fill. So the first person to tell us, you need to do more in your space. They've identified, I feel I need to make my home more comfortable. But how do you do it? Do it with us. Now, if I was not comfortable in myself because I thought about the process first, okay, I'll need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before I get there. I think these guys might have it shopped online. They had the most reasonable price for online delivery, came home, sanitized, sprayed this thing, and I used whatever I needed to use. That was my journey. But for their side and retail, their data shows something very different. And which comes to my next point of being very careful with where you spend your clicks. Every click you spend online, every time you go in a shop and where you spend, they're getting that information, how frequent you're coming, and they're using it. So behavior is shown because during the lockdown period in South Africa, people were spending a lot of money fixing their homes. So they took advantage of giving me everything I would ever want to make my home look pretty, not need. And don't worry, you can lay by it. You can pay for your own credit.
Do they still do laybys?
Yes, they do. Laybys are still the thing. Credit is still the thing, Wow. And just depending on, you can play for your discovery miles. It just depends who you are and where you're from. And this is so important because when I say enlightened consumerism, there's nothing wrong with anybody sending you what's happening within their business. I chose to subscribe for that newsletter. But the enlightened part is when you get the information, you ask yourself, is it necessary for me and who I want to be? Most of the time it isn't. Let's go back to that knowledge of 31,900 Rand being spent per second in malls in South Africa. On average, when things were still good. If that was your salary, would you really go and spend it all in a mall? Most people would like to, but that speaks to us being incomplete as individuals, firstly. Secondly, it creates a real culture of debt. And thirdly, it teaches you as a person that you're at the mercy of malls. They are the only people who can complete you. There's a whole group of people who, if they don't go into a mall, if they're not looking cute, if they're not on track, if they don't have certain things, they don't feel complete.
Yeah.
So lockdown was the worst thing for them because they were for the first time, to have to deal with the kids who they couldn't just drop off at the mall to go watch movies, or deal with the homes that were incomplete, and have to look at data to sort things out. It's a huge thing. And yet you ask yourself, with all this happening, I go back to my own personal life experience, whereby I looked at when I was 19 or 18, getting that first phone experience, going to Varsity and having that shopping experience, and asking myself, do I really need it? And it was not an easy decision, because I also want to be cool. I'm human and everybody goes through these things. But is it necessary for me? So I will confess, I caved, I think 6 months into Varsity. And I was like, I have to go shopping with my friends. So they all took me to these very cool shops, because you remember, I've never been shopping, so I don't know what the malls look like. And they were like, try on all this stuff. It was okay, but it's a lot of time trying on all these clothes, but it's cool. We're doing something together. I got things I didn't like. And I was too embarrassed to take them back to the shop because I was too embarrassed. I couldn't take it back because I made the choice. And again, being raised that my actions have consequences and I must take full responsibility of it. I was left looking with this pile of clothes that I didn't like. And I spent, I think, 2,000 Rand, which is a lot of money back then. For the look of, oh, look, I have a legit bag. Oh, look, I've got this, I've got a Mr. Price bag, and I'm part of the cool crew. But I told myself, I'm never going to do it again. And in that moment, it was pivotal for me to figure out what I'm going to study at Varsity and how I can make sure that as many people as we do this know how to shop responsibly and also become more aware of such choices. Now, the unfortunate thing is there's no such thing to learn. What they teach you is how to get people to do exactly what I said they must do, not do, which is spend as much money as they can. Because let's not lie, businesses must run. And we're sitting here with everybody learning so many things around it. And then that made me realize, but all I can do is make sure the values that I am with, I have, are right for me and as an individual. And I hope my example is what's key for other people. Now, that's a very tricky one because I have an iPhone 11. So anybody who sees me will be like, double standard. That's a new phone. And I raised this point because I had an iPhone SE for 6 years, which I got as a gift. The phone before that was a Samsung something, which I got robbed from. So that doesn't count. I got the SE as a gift from the robbery. And I remember the moment I got my 11. And how my team at the time was so excited for me because finally their manager was a manager worth respecting because she has a phone, now consumerism, that when they go into meetings, they can say, that's our manager. Now, I was not aware that when you're in a meeting, people pay attention to your phone, people with their phones on the table so that you can level up or judge someone's knowledge. I was not aware of this. I just have my phone on the table because I'm a mother. If the school needs to phone me, I can see who's calling and I can respond and I can excuse myself from a meeting. Things happen in life, but I was not aware. So this moment I found out, oh, this is why my team kept saying, but your phone is old, but don't you want to do something? And I'm like, but why? My phone takes pictures fine. It sends SMSs. It's got WhatsApp. What's the problem? And the adverse consequence of that, suddenly those higher than me went and got better phones as well.
Jesus.
So here we are. Yes. And this was an unintended consequence of me just getting a better phone for work. By the way, this phone is for work, not for my personal use. It's an investment for the business. And I'm like, okay, again, enlightened consumerism. All people do is see, whether you and I or anybody else watching this, they see you as a role model or someone to compete with. So every time you walk into a space and you have something that's perceived as better than, they go and they
more. Sorry, Tonie, but I see it more as judgment, right? I'm sorry.
It's true.
I'm sorry, right? And let's put our cards on the table and let's call it the way that it is. People judge people based on what they wear.
Yes.
What they drive.
Yes.
What they drive is like,
everything.
The area in which they live in, they live in, okay? They look at your clothes and they'll judge you based on the brand you're using, Sometimes it's about the style. Then it's also about your hair, the type of makeup. And obviously we're going to women. It's about the makeup you're using, the skin products. And for me, I mean, the typical example that you just mentioned, I mean, you're putting your phone onto the table and you're sitting in a meeting and they judged you. And that's what they did. They judged you on what type of phone that you had. Now, and that's bad, because for me, you know, it doesn't represent who that person is. It's not who they are, right? And people are very misled by other individuals and about people. And we make this big perception and assumption that this is the person who they are because this is the way they live, or this is the way they dress, or this is the way they socialize, you know, those type of aspects. Now, I'm a very simple person. My sister calls me Simple Jane, by the way. Okay? Bless her soul. But she does. She calls me Simple Jane. Now, and the reason for that is because I'm simple. Okay? I'm just simple. And if she sees me, if I go down to KwaZulu-Natal and she sees me, she says, "Why are you using that? You have such other stuff that you can use. Why don't you?" I'm like, because I'm comfortable. Because this is me. Flops, a t-shirt, a sweats, or a shorts, that's me. I'm that tomboy, you know, type of person, and this is who I am, right? Even in the office, I am simple. I am the most simplest person that would dress and do things, but people don't honor that. And I feel that society has become so judgmental on people that they don't actually separate that. And do you know what I said? I just want to diverse a little bit. When I created the Open Mic Foundation, and the Open Mic Foundation is actually a year this month, so it's the birthday, right? And the one thing that I said to the storytellers that come onto this here, is that there's 3 topics that I don't talk about, which is politics, which is race, and religion. For the simple reason, I am not here to judge you. It is your belief system. It is who you are. It is what you believe in, right? And I didn't want to create something where we get judged by, because it's harsh to people, because we don't know who you are. We don't know people. And by making an assumption of how we see you and what you experience and where you live, there's no, you know, we're all human.
Now, the reason why you can accept that you're human is because we are coming back to that point that you're comfortable with who you are. Now, unfortunately, so many of us live in a world where we are bombarded by adverts.
Point taken.
Have you ever seen an advert that says, like you've described yourself, and it says you are happy? Why would they want to do that? I mean, I was thinking about it now, and okay, so why are they trying to make all these ads, and why are we, because I'm in marketing, make all these ads that make people feel less instead of one that's empowering and encouraging them?
Yeah.
And you look at it and you say, okay, back in the 90s or 19th century, when clothes were being made, they were being made for practical purposes. People made a dress to go work with, a dress to go buy things with, and maybe a Sunday best. And that was that. But with industrialization and clothing manufacturing of things, that pushed the world to a whole different ball game. And soon we realized that as a people, you can make more money by making people feel less about themselves or giving them reasons to purchase the latest thing. And unfortunately, that's how businesses thrive. There's no business that actually says out there, if you don't buy me, you're making a good purchase decision, because then they wouldn't be in business. And none of us would ever be in business if that was what we wanted to do. Yet the notion of being responsible in how you engage with your consumer has only really been something people think about because of lockdown, because of COVID. Because for the first time, all of us were forced not to go to the mall, for example. All of us had no access to all the things that we thought were important. So it's as if COVID-19 allowed us all to realize it's a trap.
It's a trap.
Because retail spend went down, alcohol spend went down, well, except the legal market. Spend for things that we all thought were important went down. I mean, data obviously benefited the most. But now, because people are seeing this, it concerned me the other day. I was like, I haven't seen their financial results yet. I can't speak for them. But I'm seeing things like, shops now, because of post-lockdown or this environment, because if you end up going into lockdown conditions again, they're now in townships in containers. We've got retailers in townships with containers as shops now.
Really?
Yes. And that's purely because the mall was too far for people. And when we were now at level 3 or level 4, when we're allowed to go and shop, the queues were too long. He would travel too far. So they now had to look at their shopping distance and say, how do we bring the consumer closer to us? So it's a great SMME story. Don't get me wrong. They're improving employment, but the reason that happened is, let's get people coming to us and still have access to shops, because people stop buying clothes. Everybody across the globe has realized, I don't need as many clothes as I wanted to. So I don't need as much. I mean, most of us wake up in the morning and we're in Zoom meetings and we're still in pajamas the whole day. So, why should we get clothes? Those are the important things. Businesses are looking to change their strategy so employees stay at home. So for the first time, a lot of us are now enlightened with that space. And we're like, okay, I need to save money here. And I've been saving money. The adverse consequence is that some of us are going into shops and spending more once off. So we are spending that proverbial 31,900, once off, because we were too afraid of the virus to be hanging out at malls too long, as we should. So we're going to go in and do a once off good spend, and we'll see you in next month or 3 months, depending on how we are. So why enlightenment for me is also very important. And it's mentioned about the first thing that I said, your values and who you are as a person. The second thing for me is why it's important for me is because we need to be accountable as individuals. So once your values and what you believe and what you want to progress as an individual are important, your accountability measure improves. And when you're accountable, you can hold everybody around you equally accountable. Whether that accountability looks at brands, whether it looks at your individuals around you, or whether most of all it looks at yourself, that accountability becomes important. That question I asked myself, I don't know, I was such an enlightened youth. I asked myself, what has this brand done for me?
Yeah.
We see brands like Unilever coining it and calling it brands with purpose. That for you doesn't necessarily mean you, the individual. It can be you as society. It can be, depending on who you are, you can ask yourself, is this environmentally friendly? If I die tomorrow, will my family still have trees? Those kind of things become important. It's a good point, because we have a whole trash island, trash island all over in the ocean. We're seeing piles of clothing that are just sitting. Printers, it's cheaper, which is a concern for me. It's cheaper to buy a new printer than to replace toner and ink. So you've got a whole pile of printers.
That is given. That was so many years, right? I couldn't understand that logic. It still baffles me, right? It still baffles me. Yeah. So I had a guy that came on one of my youth talks in open mic, and he had a very interesting kind of business, but in a sense of, how do consumers look at thrift shops?
Yes.
So why do we continually harm the planet and continually make clothing when we should be, like how we look at recycling, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the same principles from a recycling perspective. And he was so onto something. So he has a thrift shop, and he believes that, there's nothing wrong with secondhand clothes. Some people, if you think about women, me, myself, I can speak to myself, right? I've put on so much weight over COVID, right? So we all go through a transition in our lives, because we lose the weight, we pick up weight, we lose the weight. And sometimes you want to get rid of something, not because there's anything wrong with it. It's probably because it's not fitting, or you feel like, what, I maybe need a change and somebody else could use it. I don't see anything wrong with that. I believe it's a market that we do need to embrace and to sustain that type of retail type of shopping. Okay. It's very big in the US. I do know that.
Yes, it
I
is.
have been in some South African, after meeting Jason, there's been some people that has been talking more about thrift shops. But why do you believe there's like a stigma around thrift shops in South Africa?
It is definitely the stigma. Unfortunately, the people with the purchasing power, um, we still want to be seen with the latest or having shown. It's almost as if we go to our friends with the price tags on our clothes or our receipts to say, you know, look at me, I spent 31,900.
Yeah.
Therefore, celebrate me. And it's a
Yeah.
lot of that. And secondly, given the history of where we come from, I'll give you a
Hmm.
perfect example. My daughter does not wear shoes. She has
Okay.
shoes.
Okay.
She loves shoes. They're very pretty, wardrobe filled with them. She does not wear shoes. So she will go,
Why?
you will find me and her, she's comfortable like that.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I've reasoned as a mother, she's got the rest
Okay.
of her life to wear shoes. So we will enter a space, I'll have slippers in my bag, and she'll walk in without shoes. And the first thing I'm told is, your child must wear shoes because you look poor. And I'm
What?
like, yes. And I say, that's okay, let me look poor, my child is happy.
Well said. I would have probably did the same thing, right? I mean, he was.
So this is the problem. We constantly measure, and I sit there and I'm like, but these people don't even know me. I'm just walking past the space. The concern is not the ground is hot, or there are thorns in the garden, or where we're going it's dangerous, or for health reasons, please can she wear shoes? No, it's because you look poor. And I'm like, yeah, you have a
I.
problem with yourself. So unfortunately, that's where we still live. And the worst thing is
Yeah.
that people don't realize how many cycles of clothing we go through as individuals.
Yeah.
I'll
We
take
do.
it as a baby.
Yeah.
Babies between birth and about 2 years have 8 changes of clothes in terms of seasons.
Yeah.
They have to change their clothes about 8 seasons. In other words, birth to 3 months, 3 months, which is very small, 3 months to 8 months and so forth. They have to get new sets of clothes, as in hardcore purchases, about 8 times between the birth and 2 years old. Now, let's say you're spending 10,000 Rand. I wouldn't spend the money, but let's just assume a nice round number, 10,000 Rand. That's 80,000 Rand people are spending on a child if they're spending 10,000 Rand per big season. That's about 100 items of clothing each season that you're buying your child, of which
Yeah.
they'll wear about 25 items.
Not even. Not even. Right?
Exactly.
That depends where you're going with the child, right?
Yeah.
What are you dressing up the child for?
Yes.
And it's a whole host of things, right? Because people are very conscious about who you're seeing, when you're seeing, what season it is, and how
Exactly.
many different types. You probably would need two sets of clothes on the one day instead of the one, but it's the world we live in. Hey.
It's the world we live in, and it's quite unfortunate. And I keep coming
Yeah.
back to being enlightened, is that we've unfortunately, the world has been created in such a way that if you are not swiping or spending or opening or throwing money to your own situation, you're not accomplished. And that is
Mm.
something, that's a weakness that psychologists still need to solve in terms of what is it that's going on in our minds as individuals. Is it the advertising? Is it how a particular generation is being raised? I can't answer that. But what I
I
do
can.
know is that,
Yeah. Carry on. Carry on.
yeah, what I do know is that on our side as the consumers, we need to know they're playing on that, they're using neuroscience to get into our heads and use that as a tool to get us making bad spending decisions, or in general, making bad choices. Because we think, and I say bad, not bad as in, oh, it's the worst decision you ever made. But sometimes something you look back and you say, like I did with my bags, going, but I didn't need to spend this amount of money on these clothes. I actually
Yep.
have what I want.
Hmm.
So it's all these things you sit there and you ask yourself, how then do you become an enlightened consumer? And I think that's something very important, because it's a trap. I call it what it is. We are
Yep.
making money out of trapping all of you, but it's a trap. How do you make sure you do something that is very beneficial? So I mentioned the things like brands with purpose. You need to understand how they make money and how that money that they're making benefits you. We'll give you a simple example of, or let me use a cement making factory, because I've been batting on the retail biz guys for a lot. Let me leave them alone for a bit. Let's get into construction. If you're going to go buy a bag of cement today, how is that cement made? Not necessarily in terms of the ingredients, but in terms of the amount, how they run their business model to sufficient matter, and how does it benefit you? So when you buy a bag of cement, does it then benefit your community or yourself? By yourself, yes, you can now build whatever you want to build. Your community, are they doing something else for other people? Now, if by now any brand out there is not doing anything for the environment around them or their community, they have a serious fundamental problem, because we are all conscious consumers to some degree. We might like it, we may not, but to some degree we are. We all know that KFC, 2 Rand adds hope.
Yep.
We know McDonald's, 1 Rand, Rwanda Foundation. So those things matter to us. So when I don't like fast food that much, but when I do a drive-by, I'm conscious of where I'm spending the money, because I know what they're doing for other people. So that's benefiting me. So yes, I'm gaining weight, but I feel better about it when I'm eating the takeout. I just fed a hungry child, Joe.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I don't know if people see it that way though. Okay.
They don't.
They don't see it that way. And I think a lot of people are not so conscious or aware. I think, me personally, and this is my opinion, that COVID is a blessing.
Yes.
COVID has brought us a lot of value, a lot of insights of oneself, a lot of insights to connect, but it also brought a lot of things that we've lost ourselves.
Yes.
We literally lost ourselves in this world, and we surrounded ourselves by things that were not of meaning.
Yes.
I have listened to a lot of people that came into open mic across the world and started hearing in some ways as to how they had become more conscious and more aware of actually what was going on. I had a lady from Ghana, New York. Her name is Florence, and beautiful lady, and she talked about nutrition. And interesting and quite inspiring in terms of what is it, the little things you end up noticing. And for me, lockdown has been a blessing. I think in a lot of things where it hasn't been a blessing, where people had lost their lives. I'm very empathetic towards that. And the other thing is where people have lost their jobs. Okay, those are the 2 things. But in totality, I think COVID had done us. It actually enlightened humankind.
I completely agree with you. Hence, I'm hoping that we continue and take advantage. I keep saying the lessons that COVID-19 brings. And that for me is so much what's key in all that we do stepping forward, whether it's in any shopping place, wherever we're spending our money, however we spend it. I really hope that's what the first thing we realize. I mean, whoever you are locked down with, you ask yourself, do I still love this person? One of the things I loved about being locked down with my daughter is we realized we actually have everything we need. So we were saving. We were like, do we really need it? No, let's save for something bigger. But most importantly, we know each other and we know what's happening. My proudest moment was having her make the decision. She doesn't want to watch YouTube because of the adverts, because I'm not paying for free YouTube. It's a waste of money. And I said to her, what do you mean, baby? And she said to me, she's 6, by the way. And she says to me, yes, and she says to me, I actually like Netflix more than YouTube because YouTube shows me adverts. And I know adverts are made to show me things I don't have that I will want.
Wow.
So
at 6, well done.
At 6.
Well done to you, Mom.
I sat there and I was like, thank you. You know, we have to curb that Netflix addiction though. But still, those are the that's amazing for me, because all I want is a child who is able to look at herself and then say, yeah, you're trying to manipulate, or you're trying to tell me something in my brain that this is not enough. And she's 6, mistakes happen. I mean, we all have things we want in life, but as consumers, if we can just sit there and ask ourselves the key questions: how is this, what value is this bringing to me, the person, however you define you, whether you is your community, whether you is your family, or you the individual. Secondly, does it make me have balance and accountability for what I'm doing? And can I actually hold the people accountable back? Because when you look at your bank statement, at some point, you have to answer those questions for yourself.
Absolutely.
And then the last thing for me in terms of enlightened consumerism, it's what can you do to make the positive change? Positive change, not according to Tonie, but positive change according to you. Because you're going to ask yourself the first 2 questions, and you're going to want to make changes or amendments, because Gucci could be all that you're about. There's nothing wrong with that. And you could be all about thrift shops. There's nothing wrong with that. The question is, when you make your choices, are you making them conscious of your choices? And when you are conscious of your choices, you can then make more positive changes to empower yourself as the individual. Because when it's all done with, you only stand in front of yourself in the mirror and you say, I'm happy with who I am as a person. And if everything you are doing in your life does not allow you to do that, it's time to make changes. So I'm really hoping that all of us, no matter what we are buying, good or bad, no matter what your bank balance looks like, we make those conscious choices and we become more enlightened with it. And to all the brands out there that are working hard to make sure that they can be held accountable by us and by consumers, I want us all to know we have the power to make the decision to not buy certain things because they're not doing what we want them to do. And by telling them they've got the Facebook pages, they've got Twitter, they've got the social media handles, and most importantly, we can choose not to make a purchase there, because their sales teams will tell them, actually, consumer A came and said to me, they don't want to because of this. And they listen to us. So for the first time, if you've been trying to tell a brand or a mall or a parent, if you're a child, something, this is your chance. Everybody's listening. And now is the time to be heard.
Fantastic, Tonie. Fantastic. Guys, if you have any questions, comments, please send it through onto the Facebook chat. Happy to hear from you. Tonie, very enlightening, very, very insightful. I love it. I love the conversation. I love the story. You know, being real and authentic about your experience and how you became so conscious about that it's actually a breath of fresh air. And I think you've realized that at a very young age. You know, I'm hoping the youth of today does get that type of insight. I'm hoping. I'm saying hoping. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I can do. That's all I can do is hope.
Can do.
You know, there's so much more to life. So much more to life. Honestly, I'm sad that I didn't get to learn a lot of these things when I was younger.
Yes.
But they do say that you're never too old to learn, right?
That's true.
And you're never too old to change. So I do believe in that as well. So Tonie, I want to say there's no questions or comments coming through. So Tonie, I want to say thank you so much, you know, for your time and communicating with me in the week and, you know, getting everything ready for us for today. I'm very thankful and grateful for you to come onto Open Mic and to share your insights and stories. Yeah, and maybe you come back on again on Open Mic and share something else, something that you would love to share with the community. And yeah, any final words from you?
Yes. What I really hope is that we don't become like what I heard the Danish used to do. I'm hoping they're not doing it, whereby the youth in Denmark, they buy things because they don't want to do laundry. They toss clothes out.
Wow.
So they
really?
Yes. I don't know if it's currently happening, but I know at about 2012, 2013, that was a problem. I really hope we don't end up like what we're seeing elsewhere in the world, where wearing secondhand is not cool. As much as I hated it as a child, when you look at the cost of for item of clothing, it makes lots of sense. So whatever it is in your life, look for ways to upcycle, look for ways to share with other people. One man's trash is someone else's treasure. And let's continue to make decisions that empower us as individuals at the end of the day, so we can continue to feel whole and feel accomplished and complete in all we do.
Oh, fantastic. So inspiring, Tonie. So inspiring. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time again. Have a fantastic weekend. Guys, if you want to catch open mic and what we're doing for the open mic birthday on the week of the 17th of November, we're going to have a few people coming on to wish open mic a happy birthday. We're going to do some candles. We're going to do some balloons. So please join us. We're also launching the Storytellers Journal, also the same week as well. And we want to share with you what the Storytellers Journal is about. A lot of people are not like Tonie, a person that loves the camera and loves to speak. Not everyone's like that, and I respect that. So, you know, we are creating the Storytellers Journal where you will be able to write and put images in the journal as well. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about that on the week of the birthday celebration. So yeah, you can catch us on Facebook. On the handle is the Open Mic Foundation. You can catch us on Instagram, which is the Open Mic Foundation _. You can catch us on the YouTube channel, which is also the Open Mic Foundation. So please join us on these platforms. Please subscribe. Your support, it will go a long way. There's a lot of community projects coming through next year. So catch us, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of announcements coming through, a lot of changes coming onto the platform and the foundation as well, and we're excited about the new changes. So Tonie, again, I want to say thank you so much. It's been so enlightening hearing you and your insights and your talk. I want to say a great thank you, and I wish you a fantastic Sunday afternoon in South Africa, and enjoy your 6-year-old.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.